So why would you want to grow sprouts and microgreens? So we're going to start with the health benefits. The primary two health reasons to sprout your seeds are to remove toxins and maximize their nutritional value. So how does sprouting remove toxins? All seeds have toxins to protect themselves from being eaten by bacteria, by fungus, by animals, because without these toxins, as an evolutionary strategy, the seeds would not have survived. If you soak the seeds, though, that's the first step in the sprouting process, those toxic substances are reduced as the seeds begin to germinate. So raw lentils, for instance, they have lectins, which are also, they're just anti-nutritional proteins in them. But if you sprout them, it reduces those lectins. You can also reduce them by cooking, but then you end up losing a lot of the lentils' nutritional value. So I'll go more into the importance of raw food in a moment. The second reason to sprout is that sprouts offer the best nutritional value of all land-based fruits and veggies. Plants are at the peak of their nutritional value when they are at their sprout stage. So if you compare a sprout with a dry seed or a sprout with its fully grown counterpart, a lot of the time, the sprout will have more vitamins, minerals, carotenoids, proteins, and essential fatty acids. Why is that? Sprouting essentially kicks the seeds into life. It jumpstarts their metabolic activity, right? So these little seeds are packed with all the nutrients that they'll need to grow without any sun or any additional nutrients for a week. So enzymes in the seeds are rapidly converting all their concentrated nutrients into complex materials to help them grow into mature plants. Sprouts are also the best enzyme-rich foods. So these enzymes essentially pre-digest complex nutritional that was hard. They pre-digest complex nutritional structures, so they make them easily digestible and easily assimilated by your body. So for example, carbohydrates will become simple sugars, complex proteins will become easily digestible amino acids, fats will be converted to fatty acids, and vitamin levels will surge. So sprouts by design are meant to facilitate your digestion. So let's look at some data. I want to compare an unsprouted seed to a sprouted seed, and I want to start by looking at lentils in particular. So the nutritional values that I gathered here to make the comparisons were extracted from the USDA nutrient database, by the way. So with dry lentils, for instance, unsprouted lentils, the amount of vitamin C content is quite low. But if you sprout the lentils, however, they're one of the better sources of vitamin C. Sprouted lentils are close to 4 times higher in concentration by weight of vitamin C than raw lentils. Pretty crazy. So then if you look at mung beans, sprouted mung beans have vitamin K content that's close to 4 times higher by weight than raw mung beans. So you would need close to 2 cups of raw mung beans to equal 1 cup of sprouted mung beans in terms of vitamin K. So sprouted mung beans are also close to 3 times more concentrated in vitamin C by weight than raw mung beans. And then for comparison's sake, let's look at a sprouted seed compared to a cooked seed. So if you boil mung beans, they barely have any vitamin C left as compared to sprouted mung beans. So this is why I stress the importance of eating foods raw, at least whenever you can, especially when you're dealing with sprouts and microgreens, because you lose a lot of nutrients when you cook foods. And to me, it goes against the whole point of growing sprouts and microgreens if you go ahead and cook them afterwards, because when they're raw, those nutrients that you're after are really intact. So with that being said, some sprouts should be cooked because they're too difficult to digest, and those that would include black beans, pinto beans, and brown rice. Then you have some other sprouts like quinoa or soybeans where it's optional to cook them. It depends on your preference. So if you eat any of these seeds, you can, regularly, you can sprout them prior to cooking to boost their nutritional value, and you'll lose less nutrients if you decide to cook them lightly afterwards. So let's compare a sprout to its mature counterpart. Let's look at radishes in particular. So somebody once asked me, how many cups of fully grown radishes would you need to eat to get the equal nutrition to a cup of radish sprouts? That's an excellent question, but it's also a trick question because it depends on the nutrient that you're trying to get the equivalent of, right? So for vitamin A, you would need to eat 19 cups of mature raw radishes to equal 1 cup of radish sprouts. And then for monounsaturated fatty acids, you would need 8 cups of mature raw radishes to equal 1 cup of sprouts. So these sprouts are powerful. They pack a mean punch of essential nutrients. Then you look at magnesium, you need 1.5 cups of mature radishes to equal 1 cup of sprouts. But all of these numbers are just in terms of volume. So if you look in terms of weight, 100 grams of sprouted radishes have 4.5 times more magnesium than raw mature radishes. They have 56 times more vitamin A. They are 45 times more concentrated in monounsaturated fatty acids, and they're 6 times more concentrated in phosphorus. So compared to their mature counterparts, radish sprouts are jam-packed with nutrients. And then radishes are also consumed for their anti-cancer properties because they contain sulforaphane. It's a nutrient that has anti-cancer properties, anti-diabetic, and antimicrobial properties. So cruciferous vegetables in general are very high in sulforaphane, like cabbage or wasabi or watercress, for example. And scientists attribute their high concentration of sulforaphane to decreased mortality, to decreased cancer-specific mortality in particular in terms of bladder, lung, prostate, and breast cancers specifically. And then broccoli sprouts, so to the right there, broccoli sprouts in particular are the #1 best source of sulforaphane. So, it's written here, sulforaphane has anti-cancer properties. It has been shown to prevent cancer in mice that were exposed to carcinogens, to slow cancer progression in humans, and to be a potential antidepressant too. So they actually had a small clinical trial in 2011 where they found that broccoli sprouts, which, again, they're the highest natural source of sulforaphane, that eating these improved the behavior of individuals with autism. Then there was another smaller study that was conducted in 2015 that found that the cognitive abilities of people with schizophrenia improved when given sulforaphane extract from broccoli sprouts. So pretty interesting studies there. And then, again, broccoli sprouts are the #1 best source. They contain up to 100 times more of the sulforaphane precursor glucoraphanin than mature broccoli, and they're 20 to 50 times more concentrated in sulforaphane than fully grown broccoli, right? So again, the sprouts are incredibly charged with nutritional value as compared to their mature counterparts. So what quantity of broccoli sprouts would you need to consume to reap the health benefits of sulforaphane? So according to Dr. Rhonda Patrick, she has a great talk on this, depending on what you're consuming them for, if you're consuming them for anti-cancer or depression, you may want anywhere from 40 to 60 milligrams a day of sulforaphane, which is 100 to 140 grams a day of broccoli sprouts. So in easy terms, 1 pint-sized jar gets you about 60 milligrams of sulforaphane, so you'd want 5 to 7 jars of sprouts on rotation. So if it's sulforaphane you're after, that's how you can do it. So Dr. Rhonda Patrick has a great online video on sulforaphane and broccoli sprouts if you want to learn more in depth about this topic. So if you eat a variety of sprouted leafy greens, of grains, of nuts, they're a source of complete protein because they contain all 8 essential amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. So if you're looking to add more protein to your diet, supplementing with a variety of sprouted seeds is an excellent way to do so. And then these sprouts also absorb minerals and trace elements from your rinsing water like iodine, zinc, selenium, chromium, cobalt, and silicon. So if you're getting those essential minerals and trace elements when you sprout, which is why you want to use filtered water. So what about microgreens? So microgreens also boast a high nutritional value since they're grown in the sun. The difference is that they'll have chlorophyll in them, and depending on the richness of the soil they're grown in, potentially more nutrients than sprouts. Light can also affect the nutritional potency of your microgreens. And then microgreen nutrition is also affected by how you harvest them and how long it takes for them to reach your plate. So you don't want to cut your microgreens and let them sit out for hours before consuming them, or they'll lose a lot of their nutritional value, for example. But we won't get into the growing and harvesting guidelines today that help you make sure to get the most out of your greens, but there are ways to make sure you get the most bang for your buck. Oh, this study is so cool, you guys. So in 2012, there was a study that was published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry by Chow, Wang, and Lester at the University of Maryland. These guys looked at 25 commercially available sprouts and their nutrition as compared to their fully grown counterparts. So I'll call it the 2012 study. This was the first study of its kind because there's only a handful of data on sprouts and microgreens that's available, some of which I just shared earlier, but not really an in-depth study like this. So they compared microgreens to their mature counterparts, and this is what they found. So compared to mature garnet amaranth microgreens have 4 times more vitamin K, 11 times more vitamin C. So this is always by volume, right? So that's for amaranth. But then let's look at cilantro. I love cilantro. So mature cilantro, cilantro microgreens have 3 times more beta-carotene than mature cilantro and 11 times more lutein zeaxanthin, which are carotenoids that are impossible to pronounce. Try to say that 3 times fast. So yeah, they have 11 times more of these beta-carotenoids, And then the microgreen that takes home the cake is red cabbage. So red cabbage microgreens have 6 times more vitamin C, 20 times more lutein zeaxanthin, 40 times more vitamin E, and 260 times more beta-carotene. Like, this study wowed the researchers themselves, and it just circulated like wildfire throughout the raw foods and microgreens community. It was solid proof that baby plants were absolutely packed with much more nutrients than their mature selves, and the numbers are absolutely impressive. And I didn't mention wheatgrass, but I'm sure you've heard of it being a superfood. It wasn't one of the microgreens that the scientists studied, but previous research seemed to indicate that it's abundant in chlorophyll, and many health practitioners claim that it contains every amino acid, vitamin, and mineral necessary for human nutrition. So it's definitely potent, which is why people typically just have a small shot of wheatgrass. So you might be wondering, well, great, now let me know which microgreens I need to start eating in order to ditch my daily multivitamin pill. So we're not doctors, by the way, so I'm just letting you know which are the best sources of certain vitamins and carotenoids. So let's start with vitamin C. So vitamin C, as you might know, it's an important vitamin for immune system strength, right? But it also helps prevent cardiovascular disease, eye diseases, and prenatal health problems, among many other things. So in terms of vitamin C, the highest concentration of it is found in red cabbage, which is a true superpower microgreen, right? Red cabbage keeps popping up. Then it's followed by garnet amaranth, China rose radish, opal basil, and opal radish microgreens. So all of these, which are pictured here, have higher concentrations of vitamin C than even broccoli does, which is generally considered an excellent source of vitamin C already. So if you have trouble eating your share of broccoli, you can consider putting some red cabbage leaves in a fruit smoothie and call it good. Carotenoids are next. Carotenoids help reduce the risk of cancers and eye diseases. Beta-carotenoids in particular, they're a precursor to vitamin A or retinol, which promotes healthy skin, healthy mucous membranes, good eye health and vision, and a strong immune system. So your best beta-carotene sources would be, in terms of microgreens, in terms of anything, because microgreens are the best, would be red sorrel, followed by cilantro, red cabbage again, and peppercress. And then you also have wasabi, green basil, pea tendrils, garnet amaranth, which are also good sources of beta-carotene. So really, other than popcorn shoots and golden pea tendrils, the 2012 study found that all 25 microgreens they tested had either the same amount or much more beta-carotene than carrots, which are already excellent sources of beta-carotene themselves, right? That's why rabbits have good sight because they eat carrots all the time. So if you are not a fan of carrots, you can sprinkle some red sorrel on your dish to help you get the beta-carotene equivalent that you need. And then lutein zeaxanthin. They're both very important, impronounceable carotenoids for eye health. They can help prevent eye diseases like cataracts, for example. So lutein is also used to prevent heart disease, colon cancer, and breast cancer. The best sources of lutein zeaxanthin are cilantro, red sorrel, red cabbage, and garnet amaranth. So again, you know, cilantro and red sorrel and red cabbage, they just keep popping up. Next up is vitamin K, or phylloquinone, which supports bone health, and it's used to treat certain bleeding disorders. So garnet amaranth came in first place for the best source of vitamin K, followed by red sorrel, green basil, pea tendrils, and again, red cabbage. So when we're talking about regular vegetables, not babies, vitamin K has its highest concentration in broccoli, in spinach, kale, and these other dark green veggies. And this 2012 study, they found that 18 out of the 25 microgreens they tested had K levels, vitamin K levels that were equal or higher than broccoli, which shows that many microgreens can really serve as an excellent source of vitamin K. Finally, there's vitamin E, which is an antioxidant that is essential for a strong immune system, for healthy skin and healthy eyes, and it was most highly concentrated in green daikon radish, followed by cilantro, by opal radish, and peppercress microgreens. So all of these plants are much, much more concentrated in vitamin E than mature spinach is, which is already considered a good source of vitamin E. Wow. Right? Hopefully this data has wowed you as much as it wowed me. I actually didn't come across it until after I was already sold on the health benefits of sprouts and microgreens. And when I saw it, I thought, well, duh, that's why I feel a million times better when I eat sprouts and microgreens. It only made sense. So I'm going to wrap up in terms of health benefits. Yeah, because there's more. More health benefits. It's just endless. So the last health benefit is that something else that sprouts and microgreens do is help maintain or restore the proper alkaline acid balance in your body. So with many of us eating processed acidic foods, eating alkaline foods helps neutralize acidic waste byproducts that we produce and restore balance. So the majority of sprouts and microgreens are alkaline, with just buckwheat and rye being slightly acidic. So that's it for health benefits. I know that was a lot to digest, but it's okay because there were so many enzymes in there to facilitate your digestion. What? That was my corny sprouts joke, you guys. Honestly, I think it only gets funnier every time I tell it. All right, let's move on to the other benefits. Homegrown sprouts and microgreens, they cost a fraction of the ones you're going to buy at the store. So when you grow them at home, they are much cheaper, not to mention fresher than those that you would purchase at the store. And when you buy organic seeds in bulk from companies like High Mowing Organic Seeds, it will save you a lot of money. Even if you buy those 4-ounce packages that seeds come in, you will still end up ahead. So I calculated how much it would cost per ounce to grow mung beans from those mini 4-ounce seed packages, and you still end up saving money as compared to the store. 30% savings to be exact. So 30%, that would be the absolute minimum you would be saving, because mung beans are some of the cheapest sprouts you can find at the store. And also this was with a mini 4-ounce package. So if you're buying in bulk, you'll save a whole lot more. And actually, if you really wanted to, you could even grow some of your seeds to maturity and save your seeds, but that's for a 401 class. And I'm pretty sure that, well, we're beginners here. All right. Next, sprouts and microgreens, they grow indoors year-round, right? So you have year-round access to fresh, delicious greens. So, in terms of sprouts, they don't require any sunlight. They're low maintenance and they barely require any space. So living in your mom's basement is not an excuse for not growing them. You can eat fresh sprouts even on the coldest winter day. And if you're growing microgreens, all you need is a window that gets a decent amount of light, but it does not need to be perfectly facing south for your microgreens to grow well. Another benefit is the widely varied flavor of sprouts and microgreens. There's so many types of flavorful sprouts and microgreens that are so varied in texture and taste. So Christina hates mung beans, the ones on the bottom left there. So, you're allowed to hate one. You're going to find one that you like, I promise. So if you don't like mung beans, you might like the spiciness of radishes or the nutty flavor of sunflower microgreens, which are my personal favorite. I love sunflower microgreens. So there's definitely a sprout or microgreen that is adequate for your palate. Not to mention that your palate can change over time, right? The more you eat these greens. Next up, you can be sure where they came from and how they were grown. So when you grow them at home, you get to choose what seeds to purchase and whether or not they are organic, and you know that they're not drowning in chemicals when you're growing them. So you know they haven't been sitting out for days and days at the store either. You know that they're fresh and you can harvest them immediately before you plan on eating them, which ensures that they have the absolute best nutrients inside of them. Even a houseplant murderer can do it. So if you've got a brown thumb, there's really no time to kill the sprouts and microgreens because there is no time to mess up. They are super low maintenance and you don't require much space to grow them. I shared earlier that I was terrible at keeping my houseplants alive in the past, and I was not joking. So if I can grow these, so can you. So those are the main benefits of growing your sprouts and microgreens.